Hey everyone, welcome back. Hi non-existent viewers.
Hi, non-existent viewers.
I'm Maddie.
I'm Aaron.
And I'm Brianna, Maddie's friend.
Yep, special
From
guest
college.
this week. One of my college roommates, Brianna. She has seen Supernat before many times. So she's going to join us again for season 1, episode 9, Home.
Yes.
Take it away, Aaron.
Oh, okay. Hold on, we have a sip of my Paloma Goza from Cigar City Brewing.
Ooh.
Speaking of sour things. Okay, so we have another cold open. We've got a mom and putting her kid to bed in what's apparently a new home to them. There's moving boxes everywhere. They've just moved in. Kid's scared of something in her closet. So mom goes in, does the check, confirms for us viewers there is nothing physically in that closet.
Except creepily, the camera is in the closet.
There's that point of view angle from the closet to let you know something's in there. So she hears some scratching from the basement. She goes down and basically recreates the attic scene from The Exorcist, and finds some boxes of the mementos from the family who lived there previously. It looks at the back, lo and behold, it's the Winchester clan, and it's little baby Sam and Dean. So this is their house in Lawrence, Kansas. And then the fire demon shows up again, which is fun for everyone. Sam wakes up from a nightmare in whatever cheesy old nasty motel they're in currently. So he sees basically what's going on in this house with this woman, their old house. He gets a feeling that they're in danger, convinces Dean to follow his feeling back to Kansas, even though Dean said we would never go back. So yeah, they, in an instance of, as we talked about last episode, Dean lies. And Sam also lies, but we don't count his lies.
We
apparently.
don't call Sam. Only Dean can call Sam out on lying.
Yeah. Dean's about, we're from the federal, and Sam cuts in and just says, hey, we used to live here. And she lets them in, they find out some information. The daughter describes the fire demon. They also find out there's been flickering lights. There's been scratching noises from rats that the mother supposes are rats. All apparently classic examples of a ghost infestation. So they realized they need to find out what happened back then before they can help this family.
They need to resolve their own trauma.
Yeah. They've got to go home, as it were.
What?
I know, right?
Is that why it's called that?
Dean calls Dad, leaves a fairly emotional message. So he's apparently theoretically been in touch with his father this whole time, but we learn in the message he leaves that he has not been returning his calls or picking up at any point. Meanwhile, all I wrote for this scene was scary monkey toy plumber garbage disposal psychic.
Right?
Yeah, like there's just there's a whole lot of horror tropes going on in this. Not like specific to this episode, but it also happens in this episode too.
Yeah.
So there's one of those scary monkey toys in the mother's home that only serves to terrify.
Yeah, I feel like every time I see those, all I can think is like, you're lead. Just pure toxins. Just like.
So the plumber comes in to look at the backed up sink, sticks his hand down the disposal, and an absolutely unholy amount of gore comes out the bottom of that sink.
Okay, he lives, like, really?
Yeah. Like that garbage disposal puked up more like matter than you would get from a male human hand.
Yeah, I'm like,
he lives.
Well, it was at least to his elbow.
Was he that far in? I was thinking it was like wrist level.
No, I think he
I thought
went
it was
up
like
to here, but then I think
I was
it
thinking,
like
like-
it has some suction, so I think I got the impression that it kept going, and so
Okay.
he lost up to his
I
elbow.
mean,
I just, from the sheer amount of blood that gushes down that pipe, I'm
Yeah.
like, how did you live?
This man has a major artery in his forearm, it turns out.
Yeah. And can
He's not
survive
put to-
that being
he's-
severed.
Yeah. He's not put together right. So they start investigating their dad's past, and they meet a psychic named Missouri, who is goddamn awesome, and they need to bring her along all the time because she does all the fucking work for them anyway.
Missouri, bless Missouri. So great.
Yeah. Like, I will make a very brief complaint about magical black lady trope, but only briefly because she's so great.
But also Loretta Devine. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
amazing.
also she's fucking awesome. So I'll
Yeah.
give it a pass in this case.
To be fair, in this episode, we also learned that Sam is at least partially psychic.
Yeah, Sammy's got the Shining, which as I wrote down, oh, I was gonna make that Shining joke. Yeah, she also gives Dean just an astronomical amount of shit. And like the delight on Sam's face every time she does is
Right.
is great to see.
He's
He's just clearly loving it.
it's one of those things where I'm like, everyone's treating Sam with like kitty gloves. Like his girlfriend died, and that's why.
Yeah.
So she's like, oh, poor baby. I'll give you shit next time. Well, I'll get
I
you
hope she
later.
does. I hope she does.
We'll come back to this.
So she basically tells them she doesn't know what was in the house back then, but she knows it was evil. So they go to the house with Missouri. And while all this is going on, the scary house poltergeist lures the baby, the toddler, into the fridge with the promise of juice.
Why does the fridge have a lock?
Because there's a toddler in the house.
Okay, but like, is this a normal thing that like humans do? They like padlock their fridge so their toddlers get. What do you keep in the fridge?
I did.
I
To
don't
be fair,
assume-
I did not think that was a standard like baby proofing.
I don't think I've ever seen it. I think it mostly exists so that this can be Chekhov's locking fridge.
Yeah,
Sure, but like, yeah.
because
Yeah,
I
don't know. I mean, I don't think most toddlers possess the strength to open a fridge on their own.
Well, yeah,
And by
and
the time
most
they can,
fridges
they
are
can-
not any sort of like tip hazard. No,
Right.
no toddler crawling in them is going to cause it to tip over. For
No,
example,
it's way too heavy.
Like it does not make sense to me that lock exists on that, except for drama.
Yeah.
Well, I remember urban legends like of kids like climbing into abandoned fridges in like vacant lots or something and then dying in there.
Sure, but like,
So I assume it's something like that. But again, a toddler is not going to have the strength to open that fridge door on his own. So I think it's Chekhov's fridge lock, essentially. Yeah. Non-existent parents and our non-existent viewers, let us know. Do you have a fridge lock? Are you psychotic?
Do they exist, or was this like an ill-fated thing from the early aughts?
Yeah. Maybe it's a thing that existed for 10 minutes and does no longer.
At a time when none of us would have been anywhere near children.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. Nope.
I mean, I could have born children then, but I did not.
Yeah, same. I was physically capable thereof, but I didn't.
Right.
So yeah, mom gets the baby out pretty quickly. There's not a ton of suspense there because she's not gone very long, and he's
Can
barely.
we call
cold.
Mom Rachel McAdams because
Oh my God, is that who that was?
it is
No,
not.
But she
But she
Okay.
looks like her.
She does look like her.
She like, and not like a 2005 Mean Girls Rachel McAdams, but like a now
Today,
adult.
Rachel
Yeah.
McAdams. Eurovision Rachel
She
McAdams.
looks enough like her where I thought that was entirely plausible. That you
Yeah.
said that. I was like, then I just missed it.
No. When we were watching, I'm like, God, every time I see her, she makes me think of Rachel McAdams.
That's great.
It's definitely not her, but like,
Yeah.
if Rachel McAdams had been 10 years older in that year, could have been her.
Yeah.
Right. That's great.
Which
I
is
did
just
write
a
down
funny
the mom's
coincidence,
name.
but
I just can't find it in my notes. Jenny, was that her name?
Yes,
Anyhow,
that sounds right.
that sounds
I think it
right.
was Jenny. Anyhow, Jenny. So Missouri goes to Jenny's house with them, their old house with them. Intuits that. Oh, I'm sorry. I have to take a timeout.
And
Then we're back.
okay,
So Missouri goes into the house with the fellas, sort of with her psychic powers, intuits that there's two spirits in this house. One is an angry poltergeist who wants to kill Jenny and her babies.
rude.
And the other she can't quite figure out. It's not evil, but she doesn't really know what it is.
Hanging out. On the
So
sign.
they put
Burning.
herbs in the drywall. Sorry, what?
We
It says
said it
she's just hanging out,
on the ceiling, burning.
burning.
Yeah.
Sorry. They
Yeah.
punch holes in this poor woman's walls.
Yeah. Just stick random conjure bags in her drywall.
As one does. I mean, I do that all the time. I don't know about you guys, but
I hear scratching in my walls. Drywall. Punch a hole in
right?
it.
Yeah.
Throw some
Thank
angelica
you.
root in there.
Completely reasonable.
There's part of me. Sorry.
No,
You
you're good.
continue.
No,
I
you
have a
please.
comment about I have a comment about something.
No, I feel like I'm talking too much, so continue.
So when all is like resolved and she comes back and the house is like beat up to shit. And Missouri is like, Dean will fix everything for you. Part of me is just like, you're just trying to set Dean up with this nice, like, single mother, give Dean a happy home here. It's not true, folks, but like, that's a little headcanon of like, maybe there was a reason it was him that was going to stay around and fix all of the drywall. I don't know.
With the added side benefit of making him do manual labor.
Those farms
Be happier.
could be happier.
So they put the herbs in the drywall. They get attacked by a bunch of animated household objects. And exorcise this here poltergeist. Or do they? Because, so here's a bit that I guess Missouri kind of explains at the end, but it felt fuzzy to me while I was watching it. So the poltergeist does come back.
Yeah, no, it's fuzzy.
And in a sort of staggering emotional replay of what happened 20 years ago, Dean gets Jenny out of the house, gets Rachel McAdams out of the house. Sam manages to pick up the children. Sees the fire demon has emerged from the little girl's, Sari has emerged from her closet.
Mm-hmm.
And he sees it. Holy shit. Manages to get the two kids out of the house and then is dragged back in by the poltergeist. So he's yanked up into the bedroom somehow. And the poltergeist is holding him against the wall and it's not good. And Dean runs in to save him. And he's about to shoot the fire demon who's approaching him with a shotgun full of rock salt. And Sam says, no, I don't. I know who it is. And the fire goes away, and it's their fucking mom.
Mary
Who's an
fucking
angel
Winchester.
Or something. And she manages to exorcise the evil poltergeist. But she sacrificed herself to do it because their energies canceled each other out. Why that didn't happen while they were coexisting in the house together, I don't understand. But their energies canceled each other out. They're both gone. Then Sam's emotion face is really, really bad.
It's so okay. So this is a little side note here, but when you talked about Dean's emotional phone call, it's like really using those soap opera skills that Jensen brought to the table here, and it makes poor Jared's like emotion acting look real bad by
Yeah. He just looks upset. Like he looks a little bit just like
he
like
also
he's having like he's about to throw a tantrum.
he looks really like crazy-eyed, both in Bugs and in this one. Like there's just something about the way he is looking like near the camera that I'm like, what's happening?
Have we seen Jensen's single perfect tear yet?
Not yet.
Yeah. I don't think so.
It's beautiful. It's a thing
Yeah.
of beauty.
Just one single
Just
tear.
the one. It's all you get.
The
He
man
emotes
tear.
so beautifully.
So great. But yeah, it shines in this.
Yeah. So anyhow, the boys leave town. Missouri goes home, and dun dun dun, John is there.
Boo.
Yeah. It's funny how Sam has such powerful abilities, but he couldn't intuit his own father. And she says, I could just slap you. Why don't you go talk to your kids? And he says, I can't. And this is the most X-Filesy moment of the whole thing, probably. I want to see him, but I see them so bad, but I can't yet because I need to find out the truth.
The
first.
truth.
The truth.
Let me tell you, John cannot handle the truth.
I believe it.
100%.
And yeah, so that's the plot. That's the plot of Home.
Yeah.
Such as I experienced it.
Yeah. No, that was about right. That was about right. So for extended context here, we kind of see a little bit, again, I will bring up this John's Journal thing that we are intended to kind of understand to be a reproduction of the journal that they are reading. And so you get this explanation that they couldn't stay in Lawrence because they kind of continued being attacked even after this initial thing. Nothing in the show suggests that. Nothing they ever say says that. Just this, printed book that came out 4 years after this episode. There's also a plot that I had always thought was retconned until I rewatched this and remind myself, no, this existed even in this early episode. They set up this later plot point that we find out. God, it's in season 4 or 5.
I don't know where you're going with this.
Oh, wait. Don't listen if you don't want spoilers. We'll do this again. When we find out Mary made the deal.
Oh, yeah. So
Mary apologizes for something, and it is her fault.
Yeah.
But we don't actually know that.
So, I mean, it's really ambiguous why she's saying I'm sorry in this episode, but like if you go back and rewatch, you're like, okay, I could see that in the context of that later episode.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
They almost make it out like she knows that it's going to be like this will destroy her. And she just got to see them again.
Yeah, that could easily be why it's I'm sorry. But again, like going back with more context from later episodes. Okay, we need to close that door. Hold on.
That
Poor Lacey is having a scratching crisis.
oh no.
But yeah, I mean, there could be plenty of reasons why she's saying I'm sorry. All of them are valid.
Like it could have just been like, I'm sorry I died young and wasn't there to raise you.
Yeah,
sure.
We don't know, but like it could also be the writers intended it to like foreshadow
Set up,
something.
yeah.
But
Yeah. Rewatching, I read it as that.
I think that it was probably just, I'm sorry that you had to grow up without a mom and this is a happy coincidence later on.
Sorry I died.
Yeah. From what I granted, we're early days yet, but that seems like a very plausible read to me.
Yeah, I just knowing that there was at least some vague direction of where the creator wanted it to go.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's something that you slip in, but
yeah.
Also, Missouri, amazing. I love Missouri. The dynamics between her, Sam, and Dean, very enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
She reminds me a lot of a character we haven't like seen yet, Pam.
Yeah. Yep. Psychics in this show are fun.
Yeah.
Speaking of psychics, Sam having
Sam.
psychic visions. This is
Got
the
the
first
shiny.
time we like really see or hear about these powers, but they're gonna play a big role going forward. But it Dean is so weird. He responds to this information so weirdly because like clearly they work with psychics. They know psychics. We haven't seen any of it yet, but like they know they exist. They're part of a like larger hunter network. But like, you know, Winchesters fight alone, kind of, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, I think that's like a lot of John's philosophies that Dean has like, you know, been indoctrinated on.
Yeah. It's one of those very interesting things where I'm like, why is this freaking you out? Is it because it didn't happen earlier in his life? Where is this coming from? Where's this very strange reaction coming from?
Well, I think the supernatural is, you know, it's a thing that they fight, right? Like this is coming home now.
Yeah.
Like
home.
And look, it's in a, you know,
that
wasn't even
Is that the name of the episode?
It's hitting home, you say.
But it's, you know, it's personal, you know, and it's in a benign, or if
your mother being attacked
way.
And burned on the ceiling didn't make it personal
like,
enough.
That's the extent of their initial like interaction with this getting personal for them is the remarkably traumatic death of a very important family member.
Right.
So then the next bit of it, I think you can imagine that Dean might be a little bit gun shy about, my brother's a little bit monster. I love that.
Yeah. Humans in general are monsters, so like.
Well, sure.
Yeah, I mean that's also a theme in oh god this show is that like humans are the worst monsters of all sometimes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I do think I know I mentioned this and you didn't necessarily agree with this interpretation, but when the shapeshifter is talking about Dean or himself through Dean's eyes or his own experience, it's hard to tell. It's all very muddled.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Like the kind of subtle implication that Dean too is a monster by that telling, because this monster understands him, vice versa. Like, okay, either I think both are accurate. Like it's meant to give you empathy for these creatures that are existing, but also at the same time, like Dean is the monster in that story.
Dean is the monster in his own head.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Dean is also the monster in his own head. It's not. Definitely. I would say that hasn't been made quite as apparent yet, but
it will. Yeah,
it's very true.
Yeah.
Dean thinks of himself as a monster, and so now we have this kind of more hardcore introduction that Sam has some of these tendencies too.
Well, and like
traits
kind
rather.
Of going back, like. Dean as a monster, I think, is also reinforced by like just like how people kind of interact with both Dean and Sam, and how they are more sympathetic to Sam than Dean, even though they're just meeting both of them. And it's just, I don't know. It always kind of struck me that people just like kind of dismiss Dean or like, I don't know.
Well, even Missouri in this, like, Dean's not the smartest tool in the shed. And I mean, on the one hand, Dean is a cocky son of a bitch and needs to be, like, knocked down a little.
Yeah.
But Dean is not
a bad person.
Unintelligent or a bad person. And it's interesting the kind of like hits that it seems.
Well, and it seems
he puts up with.
Yeah, and it seems like everyone does it when they meet both Sam and Dean. They always kind of pick on Dean, but not Sam, and it seems a really conscious choice by the writers, and I've never quite kind of understood it because I always felt like it was trying to like tell you or guide you as the audience to some direction, and it's like, okay, but like. He's not a bad person, so why do you keep pushing this one narrative?
Right. Like, Dean is not an unsympathetic character.
Yeah.
But in these earlier episodes, it's very much like Sam is the one that you're brought to, like, sympathize or empathize with.
His girlfriend died.
His girlfriend died, which
His
is not
mom
any.
died, and then his girlfriend died.
I mean, I
And
think
then
a
his
lot
dad
of
was
people.
mean.
Right. Like, I'm sure a lot of people have experienced that tragedy. That is not something that I personally can relate to. I am very sad for him because I have definitely lost people I care about. But, like, also none of them have burned on the ceiling.
No.
It's true.
That's a very specific example.
Very specific
I was
trauma.
gonna say, I have never lost a loved one in the exact same way that I lost my mother traumatically. So, like,
Right.
can't really speak to that particular experience. No.
Right. But, like, you've lost your mother. That's something that you can relate to with these characters. Like,
Yes.
it's so, yeah. I also just, like, very generally would like to go on a rant about home ownership in the 70s.
Continue.
Because John Winchester worked as a mechanic in a garage. We know that he purchased it sometime after Dean was born, co-owned it with someone. Mary did not work,
Yeah.
as far as we know.
He also bought the nice Impala.
And yeah, but the Impala was like $1,200. We do later find out what they paid for the Impala. I don't remember the exact amount, but it wasn't a lot because it was a car in the 70s. But it had only had one owner before it. Like, grr. Anyway, so in a one-income household, I don't know what mechanics would have made back then, but they were able to own that home. Do you know what it would take to own that home today?
A lot.
A lot
Oh,
more
yeah.
than that. You would not have children. You probably work at the university in Lawrence because regardless of how they portray it here, it's actually a college town.
Mhm.
But yeah, like, boo. Boomers.
Right.
None of us are boomers, very clearly.
Clearly none of us. So one question that I have, like, can we discuss, has John just been following them? Like, has he just been following them this whole time?
I mean, I think that he's been passively following them in that, like, he does sometimes, but, like, if he finds a case that he wants to do on his own, he'll go off and do that and then kind of see if he can, like, trail them back.
But he's been leading them, like, half the season thus far. He is sending them to specific cases. Like,
okay, but, like, not this one because, like,
Yeah.
Sam found it in, like,
Yeah.
or was it the last one he found?
which
in
is
a
why I'm
newspaper?
wondering, was he following them? Because when they went off, like, is he just sitting there? What are they going to do if I don't keep sending them
Well-
on hunts? Are they going to keep hunting?
Mm-hmm.
What
Well,
are
they
they
did
gonna do?
call him.
If
Not
he's
that
doing that,
listened
that
to
makes
that
me
so far.
completely enraged. Like, just
Well,
fucking,
exactly. That's why my question is, like,
he's a terrible
he's
father.
so bad. Dean calls him, clearly about to cry. His voice did not, like, imply that the way we could see his eyes suggest it. But I'm like, your son has called you multiple times. You do know that he has taken Sam away from Palo Alto. That is something we know that John knows. And, like, why are you not responding
He's a monster
at all?
He's a monster. We already know this. This is established.
Well, I know this, but since this is one of the first times, like, you actually see John in present day, like,
I'm sorry, Lacey. We got too excited.
Oh, things are happening and she's not included. It's very upsetting.
It is so upsetting.
I don't know. It seems like I'm kind of getting ahead because we haven't gotten to this episode yet, but a few episodes from now, they're gonna have called him and he's gonna kind of jump in and save the day at, the 11th hour.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if that's like kind of a template for what he did here instead of he didn't jump in and save the day. He was like, oh, I got a call from them.
In a shameless attempt to get Papa John's to sponsor us, we ordered too much food.
Oh, Lord.
like
the 0% of viewers.
yeah, non-existent viewers are very hungry right now.
Leave that out there for now.
Do I count as a viewer? I am passively viewing.
I was gonna say, I think you're a participant. You are an existent participant.
You're a co-host now.
Yes.
Semi-host? I don't know.
Guest host.
Guest host.
Yeah, I definitely guessed.
But yeah, so that's like a question that I have here. Has John just been following them around? And how much more do I dislike him if that is the case?
I don't think you can dislike John more than you already do, but maybe I'm just projecting.
Are we considering negative numbers real or not?
Yes.
We knew math was gonna happen.
Yeah, exactly.
We got there.
I mean, I have very poor opinions of John, and no matter how much the show tries to redeem him, I'm like, no, Sam and Dean are too fucked up for John to have been a good father.
Right.
Also, I feel like going back to Maddie's like Dean is bi thing, like I feel like John was homophobic and that's why Dean has some of the issues he has about it. And I mean, I could be wrong, but nothing has ever been suggested that would point out that I'm wrong in canon, I guess.
Yeah. So for the non-existent viewers, if anyone is sitting there going, but John's journal, I will submit to you that the very first solo hunt John ever sent Dean on was to get rid of a pair of ghosts that happened to be lesbian nuns. And I have a really hard time not reading into that, especially when the next note is Dean won't be hunting on his own anytime soon. This was rough.
Oh, baby.
Like, if you're going to take John's journal as canon, you're going to have to accept that as canon. And that just makes me more mad.
Lesbian nuns are the best kind of nuns. That's just rude.
Right? And they, like, were they hurting anyone? I
No.
doubt it.
I mean, maybe. I've not read John's journal.
It doesn't say anything other than identifying that it's a pair of nuns who were in love with each other.
I mean, so this is kind of getting ahead to what, season 7, 8. But like
I don't know where this is going.
Bobby.
Oh yeah.
But like you're told that like ghosts become malevolent like the longer they kind of exist, and so like they're kind of like they retain some of their human memories and like
that's a
like
question I have about Mary here.
Yeah, that's true. Like at first, and then like kind of the longer they go as a ghost or a spirit, kind of like the more like they lose their humanity and become just kind of an angry, vengeful spirit type of thing. So it's like I guess like from that perspective, the whole like you need to kill the lesbian nuns thing makes sense, but it still seems interesting.
Yeah. For that to be a very like pointedly written out
because like
first case.
Yeah, you don't even need to mention that they're lesbian nuns. Like, what was the purpose of that? Like,
there was a purpose to that.
Well, yeah, like if you're not homophobic and you're not trying to like, you know, be a bastard to your son, like, what was the point of pointing that out? Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, I have a hard time not reading into this. So if I'm going to be forced to accept that there may have been some like actual reason that John moved them around the way he did, then I'm going to be like, John's also an asshole. I'm going to be that way either way, but.
I was just saying, like, I don't know if this isn't like a good excuse. We'll start there. But in a few episodes from now, when John they call him and say, we need help, Dad. No, really, we do. And he like shows up at the 11th hour and saves the day for once.
Yeah. Of course
like,
he
I
does.
Feel like you're right. But like, is this the other side of that where he got the call, he did show up and like shadowed them to see if they really needed his help and saw, oh, they have Missouri. We're fine, probably. And just didn't need to, or he didn't think he needed to jump in at the 11th hour and save the day? Like, is that why he wasn't tailing them so much? It was like, he actually did come when they called, but just was supremely unhelpful.
But okay, that's still like a terrible parent. I mean, I
100%.
guess like
I think it was more of a maybe.
Is
I
he
think what
following
Aaron is
them? Yeah, it was
suggesting
a-
is
it was
John
a
is not
response-
just following them and being radio silent for no reason, but like
Yes.
I guess what purpose does any of this serve? Like at this point, we don't know what this truth John wants to find out is.
Yeah.
Like we don't know, and in theory, if it had anything to do with Mary, you would think this would resolve it because
Right.
Mary is gone now.
Or at the
Like,
very
it
least
just-
would be relevant
Gone.
to
Yeah.
let them know. Like, oh, hey, you guys are working on this very specific thing that we all have big issues with and I've been trying to solve for the last 20 years. Like,
Right. So it's
you
just
have
kind
to
of
need to be
like
brought on board.
there are more questions than answers, and most of those questions probably don't have answers that will make anyone happy.
Yeah.
But I mean, it could be that I still think that implies that he's like following them around. Because in the instance you're talking about, I'm pretty sure that villain says that he's already there and was there when they called even. I
It's
would have,
possible. I don't remember specifically.
yeah.
He's definitely keeping tabs at the very least.
Yeah, definitely keeping tabs. And then this is a spoiler, Aaron, because you brought it up in your summary. When Missouri says don't be strangers, she's never seen again.
Ah! What the hell?
So yeah, that's
me and Maddie just have a laugh about that.
we did have a laugh about that, and like the look she gives them, you're just like, you know.
Ugh.
But yeah, I totally agree. They do not explain very well, like, okay, how did this poltergeist get there? What is a poltergeist in this universe? Because I
Right.
think it's something different than like a malevolent spirit, because they they name them differently. But was
Yeah.
this a person? Did this person die there? Did it move in there? How did this happen?
Right.
Yeah.
Also,
And,
like,
Because it would be
there's
very
shit-
coincidental that Mary died there and then another person died there and then a third person moved in. Like this seems like a very short
Yeah.
time frame to have 2 deaths.
Yeah.
Well, like
Like-
the traditional poltergeist thing is it's tied to a person usually an adolescent, right? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which doesn't really hold here unless
Yeah,
the
because
kid brought
she
it
kind
with
of
her,
describes it as
but-
like a wound infection.
yeah.
Like it's something that moved in and infected this gaping wound.
Yeah.
I feel like this is one of those times where it's like a canon or like it's a thing that they like did and then like they never addressed again
Yeah.
and it was just it doesn't really fit with the
Yeah.
rest of
Yeah.
it.
It's kind of a weird one-off, and it doesn't hold a lot of like weight as it goes on, and I think they knew that.
They
when
just-
did
Yeah,
it.
they just needed it to like kind of set up the background of like
Right.
oh
And
yeah.
like I guess one of the like the implication is either that the poltergeist was already causing problems when Mary died, because why else would Mary stick around? Like, how does she get caught in this mix? Or it was pretty soon after. And so like, how many people have owned this house in that time? And why is that fucking box still in the basement?
Yeah. Also, if the place burned down, didn't it?
No.
Oh, okay.
That,
I thought they rebuilt most of it.
Yeah. So most of it did not burn down. It was
Okay.
like basically just a couple of rooms.
I see.
It wasn't, they don't ever like say this. But what we are meant to glean from this is that
Okay.
parts of
Because
the
all I
house needed to
heard
be
was
rebuilt.
Since the fire, yeah, they rebuilt most of it.
Yeah. It wasn't as far as I know, they never suggest that it was more than just a couple of rooms upstairs that ultimately burned down.
Yeah.
And part of that comes from it being a like supernaturally started fire.
Sure.
It was like Sam's nursery and something else. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I did also enjoy that. I was like, why did they make the Zelda Rubinstein joke in this one and not in the last one? Like, we get the poltergeist joke now.
yeah. Gets
Other
even
than I guess there's a
better.
poltergeist in the
Linda
house.
Blair is in an episode.
Yes.
Love
They
it.
make a reference to like
Pea
pea soup.
Well, there was a few other horror, like specifically The Shining. Like, Sam has The Shining, and then there's that here's Johnny moment when Dean is smashing through a door with an axe,
yeah,
and you
uh-huh.
see like there's that shot very similarly, but it doesn't really it's not really related to anything. It's just kind of a reference for like spot the reference thing, basically.
Yeah, they do that a lot.
So, fun fact. The axe through the door thing, there's an even more pointed reference later.
Oh, good.
Much later, but and then Linda Blair, there's an episode that is a little more like The Shining even.
Does it have the twins?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Because it involves a set of twins and a little kid who like has an imaginary friend.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's
It's in a hotel and things
it's The
like
Shining.
It's The Shining.
They have to give you some of these like, fun things for you to catch so that like it distracts you from the sad.
They are really big on like Easter eggs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But once they have more of like their own established things, the Easter eggs become a little more internally focused.
Yeah.
But especially during these earlier ones, it's like, okay, here's the thing. Horror died. And we need to find a way to appeal to the few horror fans that are still alive out there.
Yeah, and I guess there's some thematic sort of through lines, right, with a house / people blinded or haunted by a terrible past, etc. Like,
yeah, and I mean, especially this one, we could probably talk about the symbolism of like home and like healing their own trauma, which we kind of joked about, but
they did not heal their trauma. They barely scratched the surface. But moving on.
I'm aware of that, but Dean starts the episode like, I swore I'd never go back there. I'm like, you were fucking 4 years old. What do you mean you swore you would never go back there?
Right.
He swore when he was 8.
He swore when he was 8 that he would never go back there. But like realistically, it's just one of those things where just what does this mean? What does going and confronting this place mean to you?
Yeah.
And what are we supposed to get as far as the result of that from Dean? And I'm sad that we don't see more of that like processing here, because he's way too invested in figuring out what the fuck is up with Sam and his Shining.
Yeah.
This family that's in trouble. Seeing his mom not really talking to him, talking to Sam, like,
right.
Which is so funny because like, okay, Sam was 6 months old. You're not gonna say anything to Dean?
Well, and they both admit that neither of them really remember it very well.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
That was what
so
this
honestly,
is a tangent about a Disney movie that came out last year. It was called Onward, and I actually really liked that the resolution was that it was not the kid. So they end up getting a day with their dad, basically. But the spell to bring him back goes wrong. And so they spend the whole day trying to resolve it, pretty much. So when they finally fix their dad and he's like whole and they can spend time with him, the younger one, who never really got to know him, ends up giving that time to his older brother, who did remember him and have great memories, because he was the one who needed to like process and resolve that more than the younger one.
Yeah.
It was just,
Yeah, that feels very much like Dean. I mean, you get like pieces of that like throughout the series, but like Dean just like his perfect moments are always like with his mom.
Yeah. And like somehow Dean's needs as far as trauma goes always takes a backseat to Sam because he like does that. That's his goal basically, is to make sure Sam is happy.
Yeah.
Except for harping on him for lying to all of the people. But, you know, yeah.
He just
But-
wants them to have good relationships.
They want to have a good relationship. But yeah, I fucking John Winchester being there and like, you couldn't at least text your kid. I mean, we've already talked about texting, like limited resource, but maybe that's worth the 69 cents.
Yeah. No one said
Maybe
you couldn't
he
do
had
it
an
after
unlimited
9.
plan.
I don't think those existed yet.
So
Yeah,
you could have
that's
done
fair.
it after 9 or on a weekend. It
Well,
would've
yeah,
been fine.
like wait until it's nighttime. He was probably drunk, couldn't remember or something. I don't know. I have the world's worst like short-term memory, and so he probably remembered the next day at like 2 p.m. and he's like, "Fuck, I can't call him for another 3 hours." God damn it.
Yeah.
For those of you who are, youngins who were not alive during this very traumatic cell phone period, yeah, there was a time when, you could only call for free or text for free after certain hours.
Or on weekends.
Yeah, it was very hard.
Very important. It was on weekends.
Yeah.
And this was clearly a Thursday. Because that's when the show was airing
Yeah,
at the time.
it's like a running theme, the day of the week that the show airs on.
Yep. It's a Tuesday.
What do you mean?
Season 3.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Tuesday. That was
Yeah. It airs on a Tuesday at some point.
they get there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like this episode I feel like had a lot more potential than ultimately happened.
Which probably had more to do with the fact that it was a new show and there was still some stuff that they were still figuring out and whether or not they were gonna get continued.
How much angst can we throw in each episode before people just they don't want to listen to it? Because we did talk about this. Like at this point, they probably were still expecting their primary audience to be men.
Which some men do watch it.
Yes, plenty of men do watch this. And I think probably even at this point, the main audience might have been men and Gilmore Girls fans.
Yeah. But at some point, the demographic definitely switched.
Shifted.
Yeah.
Right.
When they started talking about feelings, they don't talk about feelings. They don't talk about feelings. That's lies. But
They talk about their feelings, Sam.
sometimes they talk about their feelings.
There's
Those
that
are
one-
usually the episodes that hurt most.
the one episode that I'm thinking of with Dean and a certain demon and references hurts a lot. There are a lot of feelings.
There are a lot of feelings.
You'll get there.
You'll get there.
You'll know what I'm
You,
talking about.
We'll get there. But yeah, I don't really have a lot of other things to say except that like in rewatching this, I just get more mad at John.
Yeah. He's
John
talking
is a trash bag.
And like again, clearly there's more context, but I'm like, nothing I have heard up to this point and nothing about this like main current timeline introduction makes me think that you're worth anything to your sons. Stay away. Like
Well, it is way too late for him to stay away. He's already caused all that emotional baggage. He needs to resolve it.
Yeah.
It's
Jeffrey
not
Dean
gonna happen,
Morgan
but he needs
is-
to resolve it.
So very handsome. But yes, John Winchester is a piece of shit.
yeah, but what if it had been Javier Bardem? Like
We wouldn't know the difference.
we wouldn't know the difference. Wouldn't know the difference.
Yeah, like I don't even have an X-Files moment for this one. It reminds me a lot of like some of the more like mythology centered episodes, which some of which are good, but I'm a Monster of the Week stan. Those are the ones I like.
Yeah.
Very few
Yeah.
mythology episodes can I pick out and be like, oh yeah, this is like Paperclip or Anasazi or whatever the fuck, So Yeah, other than Home being the title of one of the most like notorious episodes the X-Files ever put out. But
Do they kill a dog?
ha, no, they kill a baby in the first like 10
Oh
minutes.
shit.
Yeah, it's like crazy inbred monster people, and it's very good episode, but it is fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
It's real spooky and scary and gross, and it's great. But yeah, it bears no resemblance to this other than the title,
Other than the title.
essentially. And
Yeah.
vague,
Yeah.
maybe vague sort of themes of can you go home again, blah blah blah, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and this, I mean, I do think that's a pretty common. I mean, ultimately, this is like a road trip story. You know, like that's what it was intended to be, and what is home to these two boys. And this one is a little heavy-handed about like this home in Lawrence, Kansas, and then later it gets even better. They get very heavy-handed about like what is actually home to them.
Right.
Spoiler, it's the Impala.
It's the Impala.
They have a couple of different episodes that I think are very quintessential, like we're pushing the point that like the Impala is home.
Yeah, and like this episode doesn't serve a whole lot of purpose except to introduce a few random things that probably could have been introduced
In other
anytime.
ways, yeah.
But having that like emotional connection to the location, I guess, was an easier like gravity point to go to. Like, okay, it would make sense regardless of why Sam is having psychic visions. It would make a lot of sense if it were centered around this childhood home. It makes a lot of sense to hurt Dean by saying, hey, you're going to have to go to this place where you suffered a lot of trauma. Like, great. And it makes a lot of sense that they can then lead towards Missouri, who doesn't advance their own story really, but at least is a connection. Like, oh, so this is someone John went to like at the beginning, to find out how this all like it's a weird way of like trying to redo the pilot almost. Like you have more context now for who these characters are, and so it's like, okay, everything before was kind of story, but not really. So here's where we're really trying to introduce the story. And it feels really weird there because of that, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, there. I feel like you don't, for this being about how much trauma they have associated with this particular physical location, you don't get a great sense of place. I feel like they spend so much of their time running around. It's
well, yeah,
like,
and I mean,
you don't really get you're told the gravity of it, but you don't feel it.
Right. And I think that's part of it. Like, I think they are adding a lot more value to that house being a center of it than they should be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of it. I think that's why they get this kind of runaround. You don't see them interact or engage with the house really. Also, the like super creepy tree that they had out front, like, was the house haunted before she died? Like, was the poltergeist always there? Like in that tree or something?
What I'm saying
like,
is they could have gone Evil Dead with this instead of The Shining.
Yeah. But I think it serves as a kind of interesting way to disconnect what they're doing from that idea that it is about Mary. Like, because it's not for them. That's John's fight. Like, sure, Dean believes that it is still that fight that they're fighting, but it's not really. Like, Mary is not someone that they like remember a lot. Of course, they love her, they miss her, but they also are missing a lot of that connection that would make that a realistic fight for them. So this shifts, huh?
It's the idea of mom.
Right. It's the idea of mom. It's the idea of thinking of this random house as a home, but those don't mean a lot to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Severing the tie.
Well, I think like the idea of mom, I think like is also brought up in later episodes, and you kind of get a sense of that where like Dean's like perception of what his mom should be isn't maybe exactly what reality is.
Well, right. He was a toddler. Like,
yeah, he was 4.
He was 4 when she died.
Yeah.
Like, yes, some memories are there. Some memories are real.
But yeah.
But for the most part, it is a fabrication.
Correct. Yeah.
And like, by all means, remember all of the bright, sunny moments with your mom.
Oh, totally.
And hold on to that. But it also, like, there are bad times too. And as a 4-year-old, you're not going to hold on to those. And as a, 26-year-old, we know that Dean is a master of repression. Like, okay.
It hurts me when you say it, Dean, as a 26-year-old, as a 32-year-old.
We're older
I'm like,
than
oh
them.
yeah.
We're so much older than they were then. Which, okay,
It hurts so bad.
This is mostly depressing because when we started watching this show, we were younger than them.
We were like 20. 21? No, 20.
I don't know.
We were juniors in
Yeah.
college.
Yeah.
Side note.
Yeah. Seasons 2 and onward were 20s for me. This one I did watch when it was airing, and then I thought it got canceled. Which they joke about. Fucking CW.
Anyways, yeah. We have a lot of emotional trauma about the show.
We also have trauma that we are choosing to focus on
It's
Supernat.
It's the cycle of trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Dean and Sam were traumatized. They inflicted that trauma on you.
I also blame some of my life trauma on Maddie. She knows what she did.
Sounds fair. I'll buy
Uh-huh.
that.
Like
It's true.
I look at the like tangent of my life if we'd never become roommates, and I would be a very different person. Like 110%. Like cannot describe to you.
So I'm pretty sure Erin knows this story, but so what happened was there were apartments on our college campus, and they were, for the most part, 4-person apartments. And so I had decided that I was going to get a random roommate for my sophomore year because I had lived with one of my best friends from like, K to 12 freshman year. It's like, okay, try to grow a little. And so I had signed up for a random roommate, and then Brianna had signed up with a couple of other people.
Yep, the other girls
that I happened to know, another one that I didn't know and would never know, because as it would happen, she transferred before the school year, like before freshman year ended, but after they had committed to this apartment, decided she wasn't going to come back the next year. And so one of the other two who went to high school with me saw my name on the list and was like, oh, what if we ask Maddie to live with us? And so Brianna and I met on move-in day in a very awkward, like, okay, there are 2 bedrooms, there's a bunk in each room, who wants which room? And we're just like, we would prefer not to room together because we are just meeting.
So like, yeah, so now we're like good friends, but then we're like, yeah, I'm not rooming with you. Okay, thanks.
But the first month and a half, maybe 2 months, it was very like weird if we were in the apartment like alone together. Mostly because Brianna drinks coffee like a demon, and by drinks coffee I mean she just absorbs it through osmosis.
So I hold the coffee mug to my face and then like clutch it dearly to my person, and somehow I always go up to get refills, and they're like, how did you like,
didn't sip it,
lower the level?
You literally never drank the coffee.
It?
She never drank the coffee.
Yeah.
But and then like the worst part was the chair that she would sit in.
Yeah, it's in it like this.
She would sit in it like that, but there was a mirror at the end of the hallway that she just and so I get out of my room one day. I'm headed towards the bathroom, and there at the end of the hall is just Brianna
in the dark staring
I'm like,
at Maddie.
Nightmares, literal nightmares. But then was it Oron?
Yeah, it was Oron.
I was watching an anime one day, and that was the point. That was that like fixed moment in time. If Doctor Who were to go to that moment in time, he would not be able to change it.
That was your sliding doors moment?
That was the sliding doors moment.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so that's why we're friends still is like Oron. So thank you, Oron.
Forget, did I make you watch that, Erin?
We started watching it, but I was quite drunk.
Oh, that's right.
You can get together with us and we'll give you a lot of feels and you can watch it with us. I'm going to say it does not age well, but like nostalgia does help.
But she doesn't have that.
Nope.
Okay, but we'll get you drunk and then it won't matter.
It'll be totally fine. No,
the best time of your life.
Yeah.
My
It'll be fine.
journey is not a long one, but like Chris has tried to get me into anime a fair amount, and I think he assumed because I like a lot of silly stuff too, but he assumed like, oh, okay, she's gonna want like the dark, complex, and so he tried to get me to watch like Full Metal Alchemist. So I'm like, okay, I need a good cry now and then to never watch this again.
It's true.
Or like Witch Hunter Robin.
Witch Hunter Robin is so good.
It's so very goth. It's very just like, oh, little goth baby.
It is like early 2000s, goth centric. Like that's true.
And which mostly I enjoy. I liked Witch Hunter Robin. Like I've mostly enjoyed by and large. But I was like, okay, this is all fine. I feel like I'm missing something still. And then Maddie was like, you should watch Fruits Basket. And I fucking loved it. And we watched Totoro. And of course I fucking loved it because I have somewhat of a soul left. I was like, okay, give me the shit for children. That's the kind of anime I like. Apparently that's my particular.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with that.
For children.
Fruits Basket's lovely.
Okay, so like here's the thing about Oron. Like, we like the show, but the thing that, like, you really need to watch is the outtakes. Because we quote the outtakes, and it's very, 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 very niche reference.
Yeah.
Raw fish.
Raw fish. It's true. I think the thing that is best about Oron is the outtakes.
Yeah, we would watch it at like 2 a.m. every night, and I have no idea why.
I think it's just funny to think of like voice actors just suddenly riffing like, oh, all right.
And then they animate that.
And then they animate that shit. Like, it's great.
Yeah. So like really, even if you didn't watch the show, watch the outtakes because, I don't know, we still like bring up these references every once in a blue moon because, we've known each other for way too long.
At the very least, to maintain Annie and, good Lord, I tried to say both of your names at the same time and it didn't work. Maddie and Brianna literacy.
Yeah, exactly.
Those are good to have. Yeah.
We make sense.
Yeah. And not that I want to turn this into anime hour because I'm starting, my pills are hitting me and I'm starting to drop. Have you seen Hakume and Mikochi, Tiny Little Life in the Woods?
I don't know.
Oh my God. They're tiny. It's like a chibi. They're tiny little cottagecore lesbians. They live in it's not canon, but they're cottagecore lesbians. And they live in the woods, and one of them like is a carpenter and or a builder and she works for a badger. And like the other one makes like artisanal soaps and jams and shit. And it's so fucking cute.
That sounds
the most
super
wholesome
cute.
thing ever.
That sounds like something I want to watch while drinking mimosas on a Saturday at like 10 a.m.
Yep. It's a beautiful way to spend your day.
Can we please like do that? Like we'll just set aside a weekend and then we'll go do that.
They took it off of Hulu before I got to finish it, so Chris got me the Blu-ray, so it can be it can happen.
Perfect. Great.
Yes,
that was nice.
We'll set aside a moment. It'll be good.
But yeah, I feel like we should go back from our tangent and like
To find the origin
Yeah,
point.
I
on
don't
the
have anything
tangent.
else to say about Home, so maybe we
Yeah.
should just call it
Give
for
our
the
non-existent
night.
viewers a break.
I apologize. I deleted my episode 10 notes, so I don't even remember what the episode is called. But next time, do you have?
Asylum.
Oh yeah, that's right. I told
think that
myself I
was-
would go back and do notes, and then I was like, oh no, I definitely remember that episode. I just don't remember which one it is.
I don't remember, but this might be the first one that I watched that I went, okay, I like this.
Yeah,
Like-
Asylum's good. I think Asylum is where I keep saying, like, it hits its stride. Like,
Mhm.
Asylum is good, Scarecrow is good, 12 you're kind of like,
Oh, Scarecrow was real good. I like
Yeah.
Scarecrow.
So, like, we're getting into the episodes where it's a lot more fun, little higher quality than we have grown used to. And, like, Jared and Jensen are fun to watch. They are. So we'll go over Asylum and Scarecrow. But for now, I think that's Home.
I think it's all we got.
That's all we got. We're going to go eat too much pizza.
Yeah, enjoy that. That looks delightful.
Well, thanks, non-existent viewers, for
Bye,
joining us or
non-existent
not
viewers.
joining us, whichever it was. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.